To find this sum, you first need to identify what kind of sequence this rule would make. And this looks definitely like one of them, geometric rules, So a sub n would equal 4 times 1/2 raised to the n minus 1, which we know makes it a geometric sequence. This is your common ratio, and this is your first term. And I double checked that this is the first term because by plugging in 1 to this to see if I do get 4. And I do get 0 right here, so that means this would be a 1, which means I would be left with 4. So yes, 4 is our a sub 1. So what is the geometric sum rule or formula? It is a sub 1 times 1 minus r raised to the n divided by 1 minus r. Okay, so all we have to do is identify the a sub 1, the r, and the n, and we got our problem solved. Okay, first let's go ahead and identify the n, since that'll be the first thing that we write right here. The n, it represents the number of terms that are going to be added together. Now we're starting at 1 and ending at 5. That means it's quite simple. Our number of terms is 5. Our first term is 4. We go 1 minus 1/2 raised to the 5th, because that's what n is. And then we're going to divide that by 1 minus 1/2, which is the r. And then we're going to be done. That's that's the thickness of this problem. So here we go. Let's see. We have 1 minus, and we have 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. So that's 4, 8, 16, 32. So we have 1 over 32 minus, or divided by 1/2, because 1 minus 1/2 is 1/2. Then we have to multiply this bad boy by 4. Okay, now, if we're divided by a fraction, that's essentially just multiplying the numerator by the reciprocal. So we're going to rewrite that to say, let's keep the 4 chilling on the outside. We have 2 minus, that would be 2 over 32, which we can simplify. We can divide the top by 2, we can divide the bottom by 2, which would be 16. And so we have 2 minus 1/16 times 4. So 2 minus 1/16 would be, let's see, well, let's just make common denominators. We'll make it easy. All right. I know there's other ways you could do this in your head, but I don't want to lose anybody. So if 2 had a 1 on the denominator, we would multiply by 16, multiply the top by 16, so we know it's 32, which means we get 4 times 31 over 16. And the 4 is gonna cancel out with the 16 on the bottom, so our answer is left with 31 over 4, which is really nice. If you had to graph that number, you would write it as a mixed number. And to write this as a mixed number, you would divide the 31 by 4. Almost an 8, people. Almost an 8, but it's a 7, so it's 28. And then we have 3 over 4. So both those answers are sufficient. That is your sum, people.